Let me talk to your spirit for a moment. Right to that place in you that still aches when nobody's looking. There's a certain kind of presence out there, smooth as silk, shiny on the outside, all smiles and warm glances. But deep down, it's hollow, a shadow in disguise. The narcissist walks through hearts like hallways, leaving the lights off behind them. No warning, no farewell. Just a silence so sharp, it hums louder than any goodbye ever could. And maybe you're sitting in that silence now, wondering if the laughter, the late nights, the words, they meant anything at all. Well, let me tell you something with a voice that won't shake. You mattered. You weren't just part of a pattern. You were a light so bright it made the narcissist squint. They end when you stopped feeding the illusion, when you chose clarity over confusion. They tried to cast you out like an old song. But something in you said no. They didn't expect you to wake up. They expected obedience, not reflection. But what they found staring back was a soul that couldn't be stolen, a truth they couldn't rewrite, that shook them. More than they'll ever admit. See, narcissists aren't built on love. They're built on performance. They mimic kindness the way an actor memorizes lines, and when the curtain falls, so do the masks. They didn't love your heart. They studied it. But they didn't know it would transform the room they stood in. And when you stopped applauding, they fled. Not because you were wrong, but because they were exposed. Now here's where it gets beautiful. You didn't crumble like they hoped. You wept, maybe, you whispered in the night. But you stood. You stood when it would have been easier to beg. You stood when silence screamed. And that there is the moment the heavens leaned in. Because true victory doesn't shout. It doesn't prove. It rises. Powerfully. In truth. And while the narcissist moves from spotlight to spotlight, trying to recreate a warmth they never owned, you are becoming something unshackable, something they can't reach. You are healing with holy hands and fire in your chest. Let them keep the show. Let them post the pictures and parade the pretense. Underneath it all, they're still searching for the spark that only real love can carry. And you are that spark. You were never ordinary. You were never a backup plan or an afterthought. You were the sacred chapter that couldn't be rewritten. And even now, your silence speaks louder than their loudest lies. So walk forward, not to prove anything but because it's your time. Let your scars be sermons. Let your strength be seen. You are not rising from the ashes. You are becoming the fire itself. And one last thing, when it looked like they jumped to someone new like flipping a switch, that door was already cracked open long before you ever left. It wasn't a replacement, it's betrayal. And that's on them, not you. So stand tall, soul on fire. You're not surviving. You're beginning again. And this time, you know who you are. Let me speak something into your spirit. Let it sink. Not just into your mind, but into that sacred place inside that's been crying out for truth. This was never your failure. Not once. Not for a moment. The narcissist. That spirit doesn't move openly. It whispers in the shadows. It works behind curtains. While you were still standing in the light. Still believing. Still giving. Still loving with all you had. They were rehearsing their next act. They weren't confused. They weren't torn. They were preparing, quietly, cunningly. Planting the next connection like a thief in the night, watering it with sweet lies, all while letting you bleed in silence. And that silence you felt. It wasn't peace, it was planning. A calm before betrayal. They weren't searching for healing, they were shopping for a replacement. But hear me when I say this loud enough to silence your doubts. That is not about you. That's about their emptiness. Their fear. Their inability to hold something as real as you. You brought light. You brought the kind of love that shows up when it's hard. The kind that doesn't run from the mess but steps into it with grace. And they tried to trade it out like a costume change. Different face. Different name. Same script. A same hollowness. But love can't true love it. It can't be conjured by the insecure or kept alive by ego. What they have now is smoke. Illusion. The filtered photos and forced laughter. It's not joy, it's a distraction. It's not healing, it's hiding. That's not your reflection you're seeing in their life now. That's not proof you were not enough. No. What you're seeing is the desperation of someone trying to avoid the H you left behind. Let me say this plain, you don't need a bow on that chapter. You don't need the narcissist to turn around and explain the mess they made. You've already got the truth. It's burning inside you like a lighthouse in a raging storm. You don't need closure. You are the closure, and while they spin their tale, while they play pretend in front of an audience that doesn't know the whole story, you stand still. Not in weakness. In power. In grace. In the kind of authority that only comes from walking through fire and not burning up. Don't look back to measure yourself against their new show. Don't compare your soul to the shadow they chose. That's not love. That's comfort, that's control. They didn't pick someone stronger. They picked someone safer. Someone who wouldn't challenge their mask. But you were the floodlight. The truth teller. The soul that made them squirm because it held up a mirror they weren't ready to see. So now, this is your holy hour, your resurrection moment. Not a comeback. No, this is a rising. A birth into the next version of you, forged in silence, steadied by sorrow, and lit by something heaven couldn't ignore. You don't need to clap back. You don't need to prove a thing. Just keep becoming. Keep building. Keep walking in the power of your own healing. And let me leave this in your heart: you were never too much. You were just too real for someone who never intended to stay. And one day, maybe when the noise dies down, maybe when the lights fade, they'll feel it, that absence. That weight. That warmth that can't be replaced. They may not say it out loud. They may never write it in a message. But they'll know. Deep down in the place they don't show anyone. They lost something eternal. So don't chase ghosts. Don't shrink yourself to fit into their memory. That story's too small now. Let them spiral. Let them pretend. But you rise. You lead. You become the fire others gather around, because your journey wasn't just about survival. It was about showing the world what unstoppable grace really looks like. And this moment right here. This is the beginning of everything.